It is minus 25 here right now. I don't know what your how it is where you are, but I was shocked this morning.
Yeah, same
Yeah.
here. I just took my dog for a walk and it was freezing.
Yes.
My dog wouldn't.
Minus 31 in Quebec City.
Ooh.
Oh,
Minus 31. Okay, you win. You win. Yeah, this is exciting.
Where do I have a gallery view or something?
Letting everyone in.
Debbie, who's your little friend there?
This is Ginny. There's another puppy around here that we're fostering right now. I don't know where she is. Lots of puppy cuddles and messes today.
Well, she's very cute.
Yeah,
Are you
she's very sweet.
Okay. It is a full house this morning.
hi, Laura.
Hello.
Laura,
Not me, a different Laura.
you made it. This is on the move.
Is Alexis walking a dog right now?
Yeah.
Probably.
Okay, well, I'm gonna just start chatting, and I'm sure there's gonna be maybe a few more people popping in. Yep, there we go. It's at least nice, and it's a really nice, bright, sunny day today. So I'm excited that it's not so gray out there, even though it is very cold. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our first meeting of the Kona Colour Society. It's like a really fun new club that we're starting. Well, I just firstly want to just thank you for joining me on this little adventure. I'm really excited to, I don't know, just create something that is brand new. And I'm excited that all of you were interested in joining us and playing with us. I have wanted to do I had the idea to do a little fabric subscription for a couple years now. Sort of towards the end of the year, I would kind of bring it up as an idea, and I would say, hey, like I have this idea. I think we should do, it might be fun to do just a little subscription box. And we would start talking about it a little bit, and then we'd be like, oh, what is it going to be? What do we have to add to it? And all of a sudden, like, kind of like go off the rails, and then January came around, February came around, we never did it. And so this year I was like, well, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to say we're doing it. And then it's just going to start happening, and then it'll just become what it's going to become. And so one of the things that I didn't necessarily intend for it to become is to become like an experience and activity. But the more that I thought about it, the more I was like, but this is such a great platform. We're all going to have this sort of starting point, and we kind of go on this journey together. And then the problem with me is I'm really good at coming up with ideas, and so once I started, I just kept coming up with more ideas. So I was like, oh, but what if we do this? What if we add this? Oh wait, we should do a community quilt too. And so the idea is kind of like probably grown a little bit bigger than I intended for it to grow, but I think I'm just following my inspiration right now, because I just need something that's going to excite me and inspire me right now. I feel like there's so much heavy stuff. There's so much stressful stuff right now, and having something that gets me excited and makes me feel kind of joyful and is connecting me to all of you is something that I want to kind of lean into. And so I'm just leaning way in to all of my ideas this year. And I'm happy that you're joining this fun little journey that we're going to go on. So yeah, so that's kind of just sort of how this little seed of an idea kind of ended up kind of exploding into this beautiful gathering. Like we initially when we started, we kind of had this idea. We were like, it would be really great if we could get to like maybe 50 people who might be interested in joining, like just to kind of like have like a nice group together and just to kind of make all the work sort of worth it. So to get to, I think we're just over 90 people, 90, 91, 92 is well beyond what I expected for sort of the first time doing something like this. And so I'm very excited and very grateful that you're here. And I feel like most of you have maybe received your bundles. Yes, mostly.
Yeah.
I've been kind of checking everyone's tracking numbers, and I know that most of the ones that went out by delivery did arrive. And so maybe there are maybe just some left in Parkdale that haven't been picked up yet, but yeah, does anyone have any initial like reactions? I've been enjoying sort of people's feelings about you know, opening up the package. So I don't have anyone want to say anything about how they felt when they saw the colors?
It's gorgeous. Bundle's gorgeous.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I ditto,
Um,
and colors that I would never have chosen
Yes,
for myself.
exactly.
I love them.
Sorry, colors that you would never choose.
Yes.
Yeah, but I love them, but I never would have picked out those colors for myself.
And I'll
Yeah.
just jump in. There's a challenge happening starting tomorrow called the Pantone Color Challenge. And one of the corresponding Konas that they picked was Biscuit, which I know is in the first bundle. So if you wanted to add maybe participating in that, they usually have some fun prizes and stuff, but it's all about challenging you to use a particular color. So you would have gotten that feature color anyway in the bundle. So.
It's going to take a minute to introduce Laura, who just chimed in. So Laura is half of PreQuilt. Maybe Laura, do you want to just take a second to introduce yourself in that way?
Okay,
Feel like
sorry,
you're-
I wasn't trying to hijack. It was just like you could use the
No,
biscuit because I was really happy when I saw that. Yeah, I'm just I'm really happy to be partnering and working with Karen because we were really inspired by being able to see how PreQuilt can help people play with the colors in the bundle. So we just built out some of the colorways. Every bundle will have its own like kind of color pool and that first block so you can play in it. But my name's Laura, and my husband Gar and I have built a software called PreQuilt that's for helping you plan out and visualize your quilts. So if you have any questions, just let me know. I'm happy to help. But we were just hoping it would be able to add a little bit of more dynamic fun to this already fun club society thing. So yeah, thanks, Karen.
No, thank you. I'm really grateful that Laura reached out to me. I have known Laura for a very long time through the workroom and have followed her starting this software, this platform where folks can, you know, plan their quilts visually, and they've really built it out to be something pretty amazing. I had intended to send her an email when we started you know, putting this all together, and she kind of, once she heard about it, she actually reached out to me first. And I think one of the things is I did not realize how useful, and I think part of it is because I've not done a lot of like designing or planning quilts in this way. And so having a tool like this is kind of a bit of a game changer. So I'm excited that we can use this as a way to play with color, where you could like test out some ideas. And one of my goals is for folks to really push themselves, play more, not feel too precious about using the fabric. I really I don't want you to just, you know, sort of keep it tied up in a little bundle. I want you to unbundle it and move the colors around and play with it, you know, pair them up in different ways. And so, you know, I think a lot of us oftentimes have that hesitation when we're thinking about starting a project, or when you have this sort of new set or new fabric where you don't want to cut it. You know, you have that like, oh, I don't want to cut it. I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to use it the wrong way. I don't want to regret my choices. And I think one of the beauties of having this sort of language of using Kona solids in particular is that there's more. So if you use up all your biscuit, you know, in this you know, in this month or in the next 2 months, and you really liked it, then you just get more of it. Or if you paired two fabrics together that you don't really like, that's okay. So I really want people to feel a little bit more free to experiment and try different things, and hopefully, you know, some of the prompts and the questions and the things that we're going to talk about will sort of get you sort of looking at color and thinking about color in some new and different ways. So that's one of the things that I'm excited about. So I thought today, you know, I feel like there's a lot that we could talk about. I thought today I would I wanted to let to be a little bit more of an introduction, talk a little bit about like some of the things that we might be doing this year. And then I'll show you maybe my inspiration for the bundle, talk about that, go through some of the ways that I've rearranged the stack to give you some ideas. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about the color journal, which was sort of another idea that I kind of slid into the mix last minute because that seemed interesting to me. So yeah, so the bundle Mariposa, which was inspired by a photograph. And so sometimes when I'm putting together palettes, they come together in different ways. For this particular collection, I did sort of look around for like an image just to kind of give me a little bit of inspiration that I could sort of pull colors. And my motivation for this palette is I wanted to have something that would give us a really good range. And because one of the things that I wanted to talk about with this bundle is contrast, I definitely wanted to have sort of, you know, a good mix of like light to dark and cool to warm, so we could kind of like look at and talk about and think about those ideas. So this particular image of this butterfly, which I'm going to do something that I've not done before on one of these Zoom calls. I'm going to share my screen. So give me a minute to see if I can do this without too much fuss. Full screen now. Can you see my screen? Did I do it?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, that feels like a win to me. Okay, so here is our bundle. Just sort of laid it out so you can sort of see it in gradient form from dark to light. I really love to arrange color, and for me, I really like to see color in a very particular way. So if color is like not in order, I oftentimes will just rearrange it because I need to see it. Like oftentimes I really like to see things from dark to light and like same colors together. And so I think the other day on Instagram, I posted a photo of like a stack of Kona fabrics and how they came out of the box. And I immediately was like, okay, I need to just restack these so that they come together in a better way. So for me, it really helps visually to sort of see the colors in sort of a particular order. And that just feels good to me. And that's just one of my little quirks. So this is our full palette of 15. And this is my image. So this was sort of my starting point, the image that I started with. And I just felt like there was a lot there. So, you know, you got that like high contrast, the white sort of the creamy white, the black, and then some pops of color in there, which you know, I really like the aqua and the oranges. So that was sort of my, and then sort of that khaki, and so that was sort of my starting point to pull the colors from. And then this actually, I didn't create this little mood board until after the bundle was created, but I think that kind of just gives some representation of the colors in other context, which I think is nice. And then just, you know, some sort of quilty, some visual quilty inspiration using those colors as well. So I feel like there is sort of a lot, you know, when you see it in different formats, you can kind of visualize the colors in different ways. So I think it's nice to see, you know, some other ways that those colors could sort of be pulled out. So the other thing that I did, and which I encourage you to do also, is when you look at the stack, I know that people were like, oh, this is, you know, maybe I would never choose these colors together, or I don't know what I would do that. I never use brown. I really don't like, you know, I don't like orange. You may have some particular like emotional feelings about color, and that's, you know, all of that is sort of built on our, you know, personal preferences, experiences with color. Like color is really affected by a lot of things. And so I encourage you to break it down. So it obviously can live as a unit, but maybe there are certain aspects of it that you gravitate towards more. And so this is why I definitely encourage you to unbundle it and move the colors around and find things, you know, emotionally that feel good to you. So I broke down the palette into little sections as well. So where you can just sort of visualize these little like mini color stories. So you can kind of, you know, you don't have to use all of the colors. The other thing that I did want to mention is like, you know, these colors can be used, you can save, you not save them, but like, you know, they can be used with the next bundle as well. So whatever you use from this bundle, you know, you can use up. Also, things can roll over and, you know, you're kind of building a little collection. So don't focus so much on feeling like you need to use all of these colors together, or, you know, that you're set in any particular way. Also mix them with things that you already have. So that is also, you know, mix them with prints, mix them with your own solids that you have as well. So this is really just a starting point, something to kind of give you some ideas, and then sky's the limit. So breaking the palette down into little mini sections. So just the most obvious is to kind of go down the stack is by the little color families that are created within it. So we've got the blues. So we've got sort of the nice four sort of blue shades. And then we've got the, you know, the really pretty sort of terracotta to, I think it's Bellini, a lighter, you know, pinky colors.
Karen,
And then sort of these, yes.
sorry to interrupt. The screens aren't advancing. The slides aren't advancing for us.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Where are we? What do you see?
We see the original color row that you showed on the green wood background.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you for that. How can I change that? Okay. So you're stuck, you're only seeing the first slide.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing. Cool. I don't know how to fix that. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Okay. That's what I didn't want to happen. So what I can do is I can show it to you on a different screen. Okay, that's weird. I was obviously scrolling right through all my slides. What I'll do is, oh, of course my iPad's dead.
Sharon, it might be when you click share and then you
Thank
choose
you.
whether it's a
Yep.
like, you know how there's different options for which thing you share? Like,
Yeah.
I think that might be why. I think you have to choose. I can't remember which one it is, but
Okay. Maybe I'm
we
going to
try a
choose my
different one.
desktop.
Yeah, then it will
Thank
advance.
you.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just see if this works. Okay. Do you see something different now?
Yes.
Yes? Do you
Yeah.
see a butterfly?
Yes.
Cool.
Amazing.
Sorry, friends. Thank you for speaking up. I would have just kept talking like a without okay, so I'm gonna quickly just go through my slides so you can actually see what I was talking about previously. Okay, so here's my butterfly. So it's a lime butterfly. So there's our original inspiration. Sorry to backtrack here, but I'll just let you take it in. Okay, and so here's and this was in the email that I sent as well. So hopefully you've already seen that in the original email that you got. So that's my. Here we go. So here's where we're starting to break down the palette. So so we've got our blues, uh, uh, which is Everglade to Seafoam. And then we've got our orange tones and pinks.
Okay.
And this is just like from the top of the stack going down, like it's just literally just the little sections going down the stack and just looking at it separately. So, looking at it as a whole, but break it down into smaller sections because there may be certain sections in there that just appeal. And there's our creamy yellows, biscuit to khaki, butterscotch, and then sort of our final black to biscuit to zinc. So that's just literally going down the stack just as it is, but just like breaking it into tinier little sections. So I then put together just a couple other little combinations. Again, I just encourage you to move the fabrics around and create some other little stories. So I really love gray. I mean, you can pair gray with pretty much anything, but I love gray and the ice frappe and the seafoam, and I think that's the white. I should know all of these names right now. Putty.
Yeah.
And here's one using brown. So I feel like brown came up as like a challenge color for a lot of people, and some of the comments that came up, folks don't love brown or have trouble using brown. I think brown is one of those colors that it is really nice paired with other things. And I personally really love brown paired with sort of the pinky tones. So I really like this particular combination. And so you can see that each of these even smaller stories, they all just they kind of feel, they can get totally different feelings from them. So you can really have, almost feels like a totally different theme, and it's all just from these, same 15 colors. On this one where we kind of do some more complementary colors. And that's kind of fun. I think Laura commented in one of the posts about you just need to find, if you have a color that is challenging for you, you just need to find I can't remember the right word that she used, something like partner. Laura, what was the word that you used? How did you phrase it?
I think I said it was like it's color mate, or it's like color soulmate or something like that. You just gotta, sometimes it takes a while, especially with colors you really don't like at first, but then once I find it, I can't see it the same way I did before.
Yeah, so I think that is true. I think if there is a color that you have trouble with pairing it with another color, can definitely sort of change the feeling and change the change the story a little bit. So again, moving your colors around and trying to pair them in different ways can definitely sort of help expand what you think of them. I think that might be my last combo. Yep. I wanted to talk for a minute also about, does anyone have anything that they want to say about like the color combos, or the have any questions or thoughts about the breaking things down into smaller stories or thinking about the colors in different ways? I will definitely share all these images. I will definitely share as well. And the block. Yeah, sorry, I'm just looking at the chat now because I was just focusing. Yeah, so as you saw, my next slide, I was gonna talk about the block. So my idea for the block, again, I think one of the things that we initially stopped us from starting this project, a couple years ago, was we kept thinking, oh, we should do it with like a block of the month. And that immediately made me feel like, oh my gosh, block of the month. There's no way that I can do a block of the month. That would be impossible. And so anyways, we've come back around to being like, oh yes, we're gonna have a block that goes with every bundle. So I think for me, because I mean, I shouldn't say that I'm not a quilter. I am a quilter, but because I feel like I have come from I'm stronger in like garments and all of those other things. Like I didn't really feel super confident being like, here's the block. This is, but I think I'm like leaning into the fact that I am more of a quilter than I think I am. So, and also I think the other thing that I was going to say is that just having the PreQuilt tool made me feel more confident about sharing a block idea, and then the way that you can use a block to create, a quilt and visualize that and plan that out without necessarily having to, write out a pattern. So it was actually Laura's idea to do the hourglass block. And so that's basically what this particular block is. It's the hourglass block, which is just a very simple block. And to be honest, it's actually a block that I had not done previously. I've done half square triangles and flying geese and all of those things, but I had never actually specifically done an hourglass block, and it's a very fun little block. And Laura has set up a little starter quilt in PreQuilt where you could see basically a whole quilt that's just the hourglass, and you could play around with coloring it in with the bundle. So again,
Awesome.
I will share some. Laura has also created a whole series of videos for you, which I will share the links to, where she goes through starting out using PreQuilt and gives you sort of like a little bit of a tour. So you can look at those at your leisure and kind of go through and start to play around in PreQuilt. So I'll make sure that you get all of that. Oh, sorry. You can probably see that I'm looking at the chat. So this is the block. This is you can see it's in 3 different sizes here because I was trying to do some quilt math, and quilt math is not it's not always easy, and it doesn't always work out the way that you want. So where I started here, the little pink and teal one was way smaller than I wanted it to be. So my idea was that if we were going to kind of suggest, and this is again just a suggestion, this is like just it's fun to try a new block. It gives people a starting point that they could, experiment with something really simple. I really liked the idea of the hourglass just in terms of thinking about contrast, because it could be just 2 fabrics. Obviously, you can do these blocks with more than 2 fabrics, but with just the 2 fabrics, it really plays into the idea of looking at and thinking about contrast. So yeah, so what I liked about this block is that it's very simple. It shows off, the shapes are simple, and the way that it comes together is pretty fun. But what I wanted to do is sort of create, if we were going to create a series of blocks, obviously I wanted to create them all in the same size. And I figured that like an 8-inch finished block was just kind of a nice, not too small, not too big, sort of a standard quilt block size. And if they were all 8.5 unfinished and then 8-inch finished, and then that would just allow people to decide what they wanted to do, whether that was try one of these blocks each time and then use these all together, like one of each all together, or you like a block in particular and then you just keep going and you make like 20, 30, 40, however many of them, and you make your own, you design your own project out of that block. So that just kind of gives us sort of a standard format. But anyways, apparently this particular block was not as easy to get into the 8.5. So I had multiple versions and multiple people helping to do the quilt math to try to get to the right final size. And I will share all the measurements and things with you there. But I thought what I'll do is I'll just visually, I'm going to show you the photos I just visually laid out, and you'll get this as a little guide for the construction of the block. Because I feel like probably what people want to do is I want to just start playing and sewing. So I wanted to make sure that I talked about that today. So this is our hourglass block, and it's basically a 4-patch of the hourglass block. So that you make 4 of them. And the method that I want to show you is a method that makes 4 of these at a time. So it's a really cool little method where you get 4 of these blocks in one go.
That's good.
Yeah, I like, oops. So I guess I wanted to just show you a little bit of hourglass inspiration. Just to see this block and this photo in particular just reminded me, of the idea of contrast. And the other thing that I did want to mention, because I know that there are some folks in the community who are who really love improv, and I also really love improv. So I did want to also encourage folks to, again, this is choose your own adventure. I'm just giving you, my idea is that I'm just giving you some ideas. I'm giving you a starting point, and I would love for you to just make it your own in whatever way that means. And so the idea of, the hourglass block or any of the blocks that we're doing, they can be done without measurements. They can be done in an improv way. They can be made at any size that you want. Again, so there are 0 rules, and I would love for you to just latch on to whatever feels good to you in this process, and then just run with it in your own direction. So don't feel like what I'm suggesting is by any means what you should be doing. If you don't like the hourglass block, do not do the hourglass block, but if you want to play with it, you should. And I loved the idea of this particular image, because I think it really just shows that you can just take this concept and make it your own. You don't have to measure. You could do it in an improv way, and really have fun with it. So this was one fun version. And then, this is a little bit more structured. I just really loved sort of the motion and all of the colors in this. So you could really mix up. And obviously this one also is using prints. So again, you can mix the solids with prints as well. So it doesn't have to be purely solids. This is really just our starting point. I really loved this version where it kind of is, a color gradient. It's just so beautiful. And it's so funny, like now, when you start to think about something or look at something, or you just discover something, all of a sudden it appears everywhere. So it's like everywhere you look now, everywhere I look now, I'm like, oh my gosh, hourglass block everywhere. I'm like turning around. Morning, I was starting the fire. I've got a little fire, and I was starting the fire, and I pulled out a newspaper, and I was like bunching up the newspaper to get the fire started. And then I looked down, and there was this this block, which is basically 4 hourglass blocks, and creating this really cool star. Actually, I was like, oh, this is a really cool block, and it's just based on half square triangles and the hourglass block, but I almost burned that this morning, so I thought that was pretty funny. I love this where you just alternate the hourglass block with a solid block. So really fun. And then all of the colors are different in each of the hourglass blocks, so that's another fun thing to play with.
Beautiful.
And then I just did a quick little collage that you could sort of just see them all at once. So just a little inspiration. Again, I think the block is really cool. There's a lot, it's just simple, but there's a lot of different ways that you can play around with it. So I just hope that gives you maybe some ideas on ways that you can play. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly give you an overview on this technique. Again, you'll get these instructions to have on your own, but I just thought I could walk through it and just give you an overview on how it comes together. So a quick way, an efficient way to, rather than cutting single squares. So in a lot of the instructions, they tell you to cut squares and then you pair the squares together. But if you cut longer strips and then you sew your strips together and then subcut them down, it means you have less little pieces to sew. So that's just a really, just a really good little efficiency tip. Just saves you having to deal with too many fiddly bits. So I will send you the measurements, but essentially you're going to cut 3 3¾ inch strips out of 2 of your fabrics. Again, these measurements you'll get. Our goal is your starting point is supposed to be 3 3/4 squares. So rather than doing squares, we're going to do long strips, and you can just do those out of the width of your fat quarter. So you would just cut a 3 3/4 inch strip out of 2 of your fabrics, and then you sew that together. And then once you've got that sewn together, you can subcut them down into 3 3/4 inch pairs. So now you've already got your pair, you're already got your pairs coming together. So we've got our little pairs, and then you're going to pair them up into sort of like a little 4-patch. So you're going to flip them so that they're alternating. And I chose to do this with two fabrics. Obviously, you could do 4 fabrics if you wanted to have that effect where it was all different. I really wanted to keep that two color look. So you're pairing those together, and then we're going to sew those together. And I mean, the thing here that I would just say is I always, just a little tip is I always obviously pin my center is my first place that I pin, so that my little center point is going to match up. So I always pin there, and then I definitely always pin at the ends. And so then you're going to have 2 4 patches with sort of alternating colors. And then here's where the cool thing happens is you're then going to sew those to each other. So you're going to sew them face to face, and you want to make sure that you're alternating your fabric. So you want to have different color to different color here, so that you're not pairing up your 2 same colors to your 2 same colors. You want to have sort of the opposite effect. So you're going to put those face to face, and then you're going to sew around the perimeter and all of this is at 1/4 inch. So this gets sewn together. So you're basically sewing those 2 face to face. And then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to trim it in 2 directions. So we're going to trim it from corner to corner in one direction. Don't move it. And then you're going to trim it in the other direction. So keeping that in the same spot on your cutting mat. So you'll have 4 different pieces. And then you've got when you press that open, you've got your hourglass. So this is how you get 4 hourglass blocks. It's really cool. And so what you'll notice is you get a lot of these little dog ears when you do it this way. So these little quarter bits. So the first time I made it, I wasn't very good about trimming. You definitely want to trim all these little extra corner bits off, because as you start to sew everything together, it makes a difference. So I just wanted to point out that little tip, which I skipped over the first time I did the block, and then I did it for the next couple. And so then there's your block. So yeah, so it just gets very, like, this was the first one that I made. And yeah, I didn't trim off those little bits, and they do sort of add up and get really bulky. So just make sure you're trimming those things off, especially once you start to add them together. So I thought that was kind of like a fun construction, even just to try that construction one time. I think it's pretty fun. And just kind of a good way to play with the fabric as well. So that is the hourglass block. So again, I'll send you those slides and the specific measurements, but if you're jotting notes right now, the strips that you're cutting are 3 3/4, and then you're going to subcut that down by 3 into 3 3/4 pieces. And then what you do want to do, and I learned this as well, is once you've got those subcut down and made into these little blocks here, you want these little blocks to measure out to be 4.5 inches. And so they will need a little bit of a trim, which I didn't do when I assembled it, and then I had to take it apart and assemble it just so that you get to that 8.5. If you're trying to reach your 8.5 inch unfinished block, these just need a slight trim. So you want to just pre-trim these before you sew them into your final block, just as a little tip. Just because of the math, it just requires a tiny bit of trimming. And it's a very small amount, but it does make a difference when the block comes together. Does anyone have any questions about how the hourglass comes together? Did any of that not make sense?
Just wanted to confirm that the final block is the 8.5 unfinished, or we're looking for an 8 unfinished.
8.5.
Yeah, okay.
8.5. So yeah, and then it's going to be an 8-inch finished block.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, no, good question. That always messes me up. Anyway, so that's my idea, is that we will share a different block with each bundle. It'll be an 8-inch finished block, and that just gives you sort of a standard size if you're going to collect the blocks for a larger project, or if you're, just so that they're all sort of this, rather than jumping around in terms of size. So this is one, there are other ways to make this block. I loved this one because my idea was that they were going to be in a 4-patch, and then, you're making the 4 for the 4-patch sort of at once. And I loved the sort of the trick of it. You can also do it, which I was doing last night, is you can also do it where there's another way where you're basically making half skirt HSTs, where you're making HSTs first. So you make these HSTs, and then you slice the HST in half. And you're going to have you make 2 of these, and then you slice them in opposite directions. So you end up with these 2 little bits that you then sew together. This just seemed, less appealing to me in terms of a construction. It was fine, but this just seemed so much more fun and efficient. So there are other ways, if you Google it, if you look it up, that you can make these blocks. And you can make this is a 2 at a time. So this way makes 2 at a time, where you start with the HSTs, and the way that I thought was made more sense to me was doing 4 at a time. Has anyone out there done the hourglass block before? Is that a new block? Yeah. And like I said, if you go into PreQuilt, Laura did set up sort of a little, I think she called it a starter quilt, using the hourglass block, and again, this bundle palette is already loaded into PreQuilt for you. And so you can go in there and you can, play around with coloring it out if you wanted to kind of test out some ideas. And so that's kind of one of the fun perks of using PreQuilt, is you get to visualize, an idea before you actually start to do it. So if you're thinking what would it look like if I use this entire bundle over, the hourglass quilt, you could actually see what that's going to look like before you actually do it if you're not sure. So that's sort of just definitely a fun. Laura, do you want to, there's just a question about how people get into the pre-quilt area with the preloaded fabric colors. Do you mind answering just a quick?
Yeah, I could actually I could can I share my screen? Would that work?
Yeah, I think I just need to figure out how to let you do that, but yes.
Okay, let me see if I can get. Okay, yeah. So okay. Oh, let me share my screen real quick. Oh, I just sent you a request, Karen.
Yeah, of course.
Share my screen. Okay, so I think that. Okay, so can everybody see this screen? Okay, so this is kind of what PreQuilt looks like when you log in. And
I think you're
as
on
kind
your,
of-
we got your Gmail, sorry. The screen that I'm seeing right
you
now
have
is
my
your,
email? Oh, that's you see it now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I have two screens, so so I can kind of just show you what I was playing with, and this was kind of for that Pantone challenge. But if I wanted to use just the fabrics that come from the bundle, when I go down to fabric links and the biscuit, I wanna keep the biscuit. But I can click on edit here for the fabric links. And what a fabric link is, it's kind of like a buddy system between a piece of the quilt and a particular fabric. And so you can see this blue fabric is showing up in a variety of different places. So when I edit it, right now the default's always Kona, but we have the workroom fabric pull, and then you can go in here and pick from any of those, and you can see how dynamically and quickly it'll update that one fabric buddy. So anything that this fabric is buddied with, it'll quickly just update that. And so as the society transitions through the year, and I'm going to get Guard to rename this to bundle 1 and then put the name on it, because we didn't have that at first. We'll see all 6 bundles here, and so you can really quickly mix and match the different bundles as well. And you won't have to go through looking through this, which can be kind of overwhelming to find those particular ones. If you're ever looking for a particular one, as this grows, you can also sort by name, and then it'll put them in alphabetical. And then once you find what you want, you can go back to the pretty kind of alignment of colors. So, and there's a YouTube channel that we have on called youtube.com/PreQuilt, and that has, I think, like 6 or 7 videos showing you how you can find the specific resources that we built for this society. I'll also show you here. And when you go to the add-ons dashboard, everything. Oh, why don't I have it? That's so weird. Huh, okay. Sorry, I'm lying. But there'll be like a Kona Colour Society here, a nice button, and when you click on open it, it will have the hourglass block and some other things there as the society transitions through the year. But I guess we forgot to make that live, so sorry about that. It always happens during the demo. But that'll be there by the end of today once Gar gets back.
Laura,
Yeah.
look, quick question for you. Will this be available with the basic subscription?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and it's all unlocked. Like, you don't have to, once you subscribe to PreQuilt, you'll get those resources immediately. You don't have to load anything else. Well, the add-on you'll have to load, but you don't have to unlock it or anything. It's already unlocked. The difference between the two is really only if you want to commercialize your craft by selling patterns or stuff like that. That's the difference. So you have all the features on the basic plan that you would have, except for being able to like make coloring pages and stuff like that. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Or yeah, that's great. Yeah, I definitely recommend folks just pop in there and just play around. Make sure that you get a link to this Laura made. They have a YouTube channel where you can go look at their videos, but she also made some specific videos just for us that you can access, that where she talks specifically about you know, our colors and everything like that. Sandra was asking a question, can you use your own pattern with these colors? Absolutely, of course. Yep, these colors are not, use them however you want in whatever ways. They're Kona, so we have no rights to any of them, and we publish, you know, for most of our palettes we publish the list on our website so that you can use them in whatever way you want. So these ones we probably aren't going to be necessarily publishing this list, but they're really, use them however you see fit for sure. I see in the chat there's a little conversation going on about pre-washing fabric, and definitely everyone can chime in on that in the chat if they want to. I don't pre-wash. I'll just say it out loud. It's definitely not what some people believe in, but I have found that the fabrics that I use are high quality. I've never had an issue. If I was using red and white, I probably would change, you know, be a little bit more careful about that combo. But you know, I tend to go with things that are that I've never had any issues with, and Kona is a very stable cotton. I think pre-washing, I mean, definitely I still hear stories of people who have had issues with their quilts. It's not that it never happens. It is definitely a risk that you are taking when you don't pre-wash. But I would say that my understanding is that it used to be way more of an issue when dyes were less stable. I feel like it was a little bit more like it was a little bit more common that things would run or die when, you know, the technology wasn't as stable as I think it is now. And also the higher quality the fabrics that we carry are usually don't give any issues. I personally just like to work with the fabric for quilting. I do pre-wash for clothing, but for quilting, I personally like to use the fabric in the way that it comes flat off the bolt. It's a little bit smoother, easier to handle, and then I also personally like the crinkle and the shrink once you finish the quilt and then wash it for the first time. Like I like that, and some people don't like that. So definitely I hope people will say that, pop in the chat their own personal viewpoints. I think it's just you could go either way. So do with it what you will, that information. It's 11. Okay. An hour flies by. If you were okay, I did want to just take a minute to give you just a quick little tour if you're okay. I just wanted to show everybody our online community space, because I did want to just encourage you to think about just popping in there and doing the trial to see what it's like. I feel like if you are here for the community experience of what I'm hoping is going to happen this year, you'll get a lot from being inside that space with us. It is, you know, sort of a lovely private online space where there is no extra noise. So there's no ads. All we're talking about is sewing and making. There's no other things that pop up. No ads, no other voices and opinions. It's really, really nice. Also, all of the resources are going to be living there in one space. I will be emailing things to you, but keeping track of the emails and the links and the images and the PDFs and all of that is maybe going to get a little bit wild this year. So having it all in one space, and also just the conversation that's already happening there. So what's amazing is, of, you know, our 90 people who are in this, we already over 22, 23 of us are already members or inside this space already. And yeah, I think it's I just wanted to take a second to show you. So I'm going to just share my screen one more time and just show you that. Okay. Can you see my screen? Yeah. Okay. So inside the workroom studio, there are different spaces, we call them, and there is one that's dedicated just to the Kona Colour Society. And so inside here, where we are right now, you come in. So all the event invitations and links are in one in spot. You can see them here across the top. We've got a few different sections. So there's an event section, so you'll be able to see well, we're already in the event, so there's nothing coming up. We've got sort of our community hub, which is where you can kind of see, it's like the feed of the space, so you can kind of see things that we're talking about. We've got a little introductions post where everyone's introducing themselves, and that's already started. We post little questions that people can answer, so there's conversation happening in there. And then we've got the learning library. So the learning library is going to be where I'm going to be putting all the resources. And so already we've started, there's a whole section, I'll start at the beginning here. So the first section is just sort of a welcome section, just talks about the different spaces and how to use the space. And then let's see here. Yeah, so just a little bit more like orientation, and then all the resources that we've got for Laura, that sort of a little bit of information about PreQuilt, and then her video tutorials. There's a little section in here with the links to all of her video tutorials, and that's all in one. The playlist is here. Each of the individual links is in here as well. And then there's going to be for each month, there's going to be, a little sort of lesson. It's almost like a little lesson section. And so the first, and they kind of will get dropped. So the first section is already posted, which is the palette inspiration, and then a little bit of the breakdown in there. So that's in there. And then the color journal. So all of the PDFs, anything that we send out or post, those are also going to all live in sort of this one space here. So you can kind of access everything really easily. And so that's our, so, and then that is sort of just one of the spaces. And so then we do have, I'll just quickly pop out and show you maybe one of the other spaces. So we have a few other spaces. One's called the library. And this is where we post, different community things that are going on in the, craft and textile community, different inspiration, events, books that we're reading, things like that. And then in the Studio Commons, people will post their works in progress, things that they're working on. We do member profiles. And so again, this is kind of like, if you could just see the things that you wanted to see on Instagram, this is kind of what this is like, it's just a very focused, community area where you can really just go there, and all we're talking about and looking at and thinking of is making and crafting and asking each other questions and helping each other out with different things. So I just wanted to quickly just give you, I know sometimes like if you can't visualize something, you may not, see, what you would get from coming into the space. But I think that if you are, interested in just giving it a try, I feel like you'll, get a lot from sort of the larger, the larger community things that we're trying to do this year. So just something to think about. And I just wanted to give you a little tour so you can see, sorry, everything's popping off there. Okay, so that, I'll stop sharing that. So did anyone have any, it's 11 and I want to just be mindful of everyone's day. Did anyone have anything things that they wanted to ask or talk about today?
I had one question
So-
about the quilt along, like the patch, the
yeah.
sugar cubes one, and how that kind of ties into what we're getting versus like the experimentation,
Right.
And how that's going to tie together.
Great. Good question. Yes, I did want to bring that up. So sugar cubes. So the sugar cubes built along, I think initially we just thought it would be great to, we did a double time quilt along at the end of last year, and it was just such a fun experience. So I thought, we thought it would be really great to do another quilt along with this, throughout the year, and sort of maybe midway through the year where we already had sort of several bundles, and so you would have sort of a larger collection of fabric to potentially work with. Obviously, you can do the quilt out with whatever fabric you choose. This is just sort of a, within this framework. So my thought is that probably in the next little bit, we're going to post a pre-order. So this pattern, if you're interested in a paper pattern, I thought it would be helpful for folks to get it with the next bundle. So we're not going to necessarily start the quilt along until bundle 3, but you may want to have the pattern in your hands before then if you're wanting to do a bit of planning or thinking about it. If you want a paper copy, so this paper copy you can get, we'll have it through us. Obviously, you can get an electronic if you like a PDF version. You can get it directly from Patch and Dot as well. So if you're interested in taking, and again, the quilt along, as I say, like you don't have to do the quilt along. If this doesn't interest you, don't, skip that part of this adventure and focus on the things that do interest you. But if you are interested in doing the quilt along, you will need to buy the pattern, whether you buy it from us to get a paper copy with your next bundle, or just directly through Patch and Dot, and you can get the PDF, instantaneously from her as well. And so my idea is that will kind of be like a secondary thing that's that's going to start happening with the third bundle. And we'll have Stephanie, who is the designer, has already talked about some of the video content that she's going to create some specific videos that will go along. So there'll be some tailored videos about using solids and the pattern and some of her tips and things like that. So we're already starting to plan sort of how that's going to come together. And she's going to talk. She did also mention that she wants to talk a little bit about mixing solids and prints and things like that. So that will kind of be its own little, it's like another side adventure that you can choose to go along on that little side adventure if you want, or you can kind of skip that. That's totally up to you. And we'll give you plenty of time to order the pattern and make sure that you have it well in time. Does that answer your question, Lori? Is that any other things?
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you.
I have a quick question about, I ordered the fat quarter bundles, but if I decide, oh, actually I want a 1/2 meter now, or whatever the next level up is that still possible to increase?
I think we can figure that out. Yeah, for sure. Just send us a note and we can definitely, make some changes. We can definitely always figure that out. Not a problem. Yeah, if you just email like shop@theworkroom.ca, we'll just do the math and figure that out for you. Easy. So my thought is, so when I thought about this, I thought what we'll do is, I didn't want to go, I mean, we already talked through a lot of stuff here today. But my idea is that the theme for this particular bundle is contrast. And I do have sort of a lesson that I'm going to send to everyone. And I thought what I'll probably do is I will do its own, I was like, I think that is its own Zoom. I didn't want this welcome Zoom to be like welcome and then like jam a whole bunch of, I already jammed stuff in here, but I feel like we'll do a contrast Zoom specifically because I think it's just nice to just have this sort of give a bit of breathing room there. So just to let you know, I'm going to book a next Zoom so that we can talk about contrast and give that sort of the time that it deserves. And what I'll do is I'll pre-send the lesson, and then when we do the Zoom, you'll have already had it to look over and think about. The last thing that I guess I'll just mention is the color journal. So the color journal, again, is just an optional adventure you can go on if you're interested in. I'm just providing you with a whole bunch of tools and ways that you can experience this or not experience this, totally up to you. My feeling for this was that I have just been spending a lot of time thinking about color, and I know that how you feel about color can change over time, and it changes over the exposure that you have. The more that you're exposed to certain things, the more you feel good about them, the more you know, things that you thought you didn't like, you start to like. And what I always find really interesting, there's a workbook that I do at the beginning of every year called Unravel Your Year, and it is by Susanna Conway. And I can pop that her information in a future email. She does this free workbook every year where it's like you kind of look back on your year before, and then you look ahead to your next year, and you kind of, you know, think about your challenges, think about, you know, all of those things. What I always find really interesting is kind of the looking ahead and sort of thinking, oh, I hope this year is going to be like this. I would love to make this happen. I hope it's not like this. You know, you set all these goals. And then what I really like with the workbook, especially, is like in 6 months, I like to look at the workbook and be like, oh, yeah, okay, I don't feel like that anymore, or like that totally came true. And so I just thought that it would be very interesting, and I love these kinds of scientific experiments, to see how we felt today, and then at the end of the year to be, oh yeah, like I really thought I would never use brown, and actually like brown appeared in, like, you know, 3 of my projects this year. So if you're interested in thinking about color a little bit more deeply and thinking about, you know, how you feel about color today, what it means to you, and then checking in with yourself a couple times this year, then, you know, take a look through that workbook. Again, it is just like a suggestion. Follow the things that feel good to you, answer the things that make sense to you, leave behind what doesn't. And you can use it. I left a lot of space in that for you to print it out and use it as is, you know, add swatches and things to it. Personally, I love an excuse for a notebook. So I've got a notebook that I'm going to start, you know, with my sort of as my color journal for this year. And I'm just going to start to add swatches and thoughts in there for that. And so I welcome you to, you know, explore that and think about color in that way if that interests you. And so that was just something that I wanted to share. So
Yeah.
I'll be curious to know if that appeals to anyone.
Mm.
Okay. Thank you. Does anyone else have anything they want to say, or anything that they're excited for, or hesitant about this year? Anything feel sticky or uncomfortable? Does it all feel good?
I'm very excited for this year. And I really, really loved what you wrote in your last email and what you said again today about not being precious with the fabric, because that was so freeing for me to be like, oh yeah, I can just order more if I use it. So yeah, I'm really excited for how this is going to come together. So thanks so much for this.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I just really encourage everyone to, yeah, just don't think too much about it. Don't overthink. I feel like that's, you know, I think a lot of us are overthinkers. I feel like we're in good company. I feel like this is a really good opportunity to not overthink things. Again, it is, you know, it's not like that, you know, that Heather Ross fabric that's in your stash where you're like, oh, I think it's okay if I cut a little quarter out of this today. Like this is not that. Like this can be something that you just go for. And then I would also say anything that you make, I'm hoping to collect your mistakes or your things that you don't, that you want, that you've tried and that don't make it into a project. I'm excited to put together a community quilt or two, depending on how much you send me, to create something for charity. And that will also kind of show visually sort of what we did and what we kind of explored together. So I think that's going to be a really interesting something that I'm really interested in seeing how what happens there.
Mhm.
Did anyone else have trouble answering the color questions in the workbook? Because I sure did. I
What
didn't
was
know
your
like some of the answers, like what's my favorite color? And I'm like, well, I don't really know.
Mhm.
So that was interesting.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a fun
Yeah.
deep dive.
I'm actually really excited for the journal because I find that I'm always moving and I don't really reflect very much. So, yeah, and I downloaded that Unravel Year 2024 and I printed it out and I think I wrote my name on the front and I never did it. So I could probably just reuse last year's for this year.
Same,
But
same.
yeah, so I really joined and got excited about it because I just want to not be so serious about things. So, and I really appreciate the kind of color journal and all of these things because I just want to take a minute for myself. So I really appreciate, and like, I don't know, I'm such a nerd. Who doesn't like a good workbook? Like, so thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that one of the prompts that I personally love in that Unravel Your Year is the write a letter to yourself at the end of the year. I love doing that prompt where you just kind of talk to what you hope, what you hope you're gonna feel or, something that you want to say to yourself in 1 year. And I love that idea. I love the idea of like giving yourself pep talk, your future self a pep talk. Um, and so I definitely encourage you to think about that. And if you want to say something to your future self about like what this year of color is going to be for yourself, like what you hope it's going to be, what you want to challenge yourself to do, what you hope this is going to mean or what is it's going to result in for you, I think that's just such a really fun thing to look back on. And so hopefully if you even just do one or two of those prompts, that might be the one I would say. Send yourself a note in the future. Okay, well, I want to just thank everybody so much for your trust and your time and your excitement. I'm very excited to go through all of this with you and to see what you all come up with and what excites you and what challenges you. So please, post photos, tag us if you're on social media. And I hope, those of you who are interested will even just pop in and do a little tour around the online community space and, connect with us there because I think that, there's already some really great conversation and posts happening there. So it'd be great to have more of you who want to engage in that way. So. Well, anyone else have?
I want some.
Okay, well, I thank you so much for coming today, and I will send a link with the replay from this if you need to experience it one more time. And also all my notes, the slideshow for how to make the block and all of that stuff. You'll be getting some another email from me this week that'll be filled with too many things, I'm sure.
Okay, I gotta go.
Okay.
Fabulous.
Amazing. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Good to see you.